Fort Collins, Colorado, considered one of the best places to live in the U.S. However, affordability can be a challenge. The question is it worth it? That's what we'll look at today on Discover Fort Collins. Fort Collins is the fourth largest city in Colorado with approximately 175,000 residents. It's repeatedly on lists of best places to live. And in fact, in 2023, U.S. News Best Places to Live ranked it number 23 out of 150 metropolitan areas. So why is this such a special place? I'm Amy Holton with the Group Real Estate. When considering a move to Fort Collins or whether or not to stay, there are a few important factors to consider. Let's take a closer look. First and foremost, your budget and general location are crucial. Consider the proximity to your work, schools, and places you frequent. And of course, you always want to make sure that the location you select aligns with your budget. Finding the right balance between convenience and cost is key. Now let's talk numbers. According to Sperling's Best Places to Live, Fort Collins has an index of 116 for cost of living. The national average is 100, so Fort Collins is a little above average. Let's look at what makes Fort Collins a bit more expensive. Surprisingly, it's not the everyday costs like healthcare, groceries, utilities, and transportation costs. All of those are at average or below average for national standards. The primary driver of the higher cost of living is housing. While the U.S. average was $383,000 this last year for housing prices, it was a staggering $596,000 around here, earning at a rating of 167, making Fort Collins more expensive than the average. Okay, so let's look at some specifics of costs in Fort Collins. When it comes to electricity, you can expect to pay somewhere between $100 and $150 depending on the season and how much you use your air conditioning, etc. When it comes to gas, about $20 to $30 in the summer, more in the winter, $80 to $90. Internet, about $100 a month. Water is going to be $60 to $90 a month, depending on how much usage you have. All right, let's talk taxes. We all love taxes, right? In Colorado, the individual income tax rate is at 4.4%, and the sales tax rate is at 2.9%. Now, on the positive side, in Fort Collins in particular, your property tax rate is going to be lower than most of the U.S. In fact, it's lower than Boulder and Denver. However, be aware that in the newer neighborhoods of northern Colorado, you're going to face something called a metro tax in many cases. This, in particular, helps fund the local infrastructure and services of newer neighborhoods. So that leads me to the next question. What kind of salary do you actually need to be able to live comfortably in northern Colorado? Well, according to MIT's living wage calculator, an individual living in Fort Collins would need to earn about $40,000. It goes up drastically when you're a single individual with 3 kids. They say about $145,000 is required because you have to consider childcare costs in there. Okay, let's move on to something that I know you're all wondering, and that is the pros and cons of living in Fort Collins. We're going to start with the cons because there's so many pros we'll talk about later. On the downside, with a rapidly growing population in this area, we have some issues with traffic. The train that passes through the middle of town might be cute, but it does cause problems with congestion if you're going from east to west at certain times of day. Construction on I-25 can also be a pain if you're trying to commute to Denver or some of the other northern Colorado cities. Additionally, like many other cities, Fort Collins has seen an increase in its homeless population. And let's not forget those winters. They can be harsh compared to some places in the U.S., but it's not all cons. Fort Collins has endless advantages when it comes to a desirable place to call home. The climate is fantastic with mild summers and picturesque winters. Outdoor enthusiasts will love the access to local trails and activities. The population is known as being health conscious and highly educated. The city boasts newer parks, playgrounds, open spaces. While preserving historical charm, it also embraces that vibrant college town atmosphere. When it comes to entertainment and dining and nightlife, Fort Collins has a lot to offer. And another perk is it is more affordable than neighboring Boulder, Denver, and many metro areas throughout the U.S. So is it worth it to live in Fort Collins? Only you can answer that question, but consider your priorities, budget, and personal preferences. Fort Collins provides a high quality of life, diverse amenities, and a welcoming community, while it faces some challenges. Hey, thanks for joining me on this exploration of the cost of living in Fort Collins. Be sure to do your own research, weighing the pros and cons, and make an informed decision. And if you decide to call Fort Collins home, you'll be part of a thriving community surrounded by natural beauty and countless opportunities. Be sure to check out my video, Everything You Need to Know About Real Estate in Fort Collins in 2023. This is Amy Holton, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Discover Fort Collins.